got any, if you can say, you might have any particular speaker you like to put a question to. So we're opening the floor for questions. If you raise your hand and maybe say your organisation as well, that'd be brilliant. Oh, well, I can see there's one. It's just, I think, Claire, you're going to be second. There's one up that direction. That'll be easier for you. If you right, up there. Whoop. It's whoever arrives first, I think, is going to go, Claire. Okay, you've got the first microphone, so.
Sorry about that. There's always one, and it's always me, right? So here we go. So there's been a lot of information given. Some of it really exciting, some of it really scary, right? There's a load of people in the room probably know about AI, learning about AI. It's a lot to unpack. So I don't know who this question's for, but if you could give one nugget of advice for people to cut through all the jargon, cut through all the excitement, cut through all the scariness, what would be that one first step be for companies to get going on this journey? Who wants to take that?
I can take one. So I'm going to go back to Amy Webb that I mentioned earlier. She uses an analogy that she says, if you're driving in ice, your immediate action is to try and stop. And in this quite challenging kind of climate, she's saying you need to lean into it. So I think that's the kind of non-technical thing is we're all facing uncertainty. It feels like there's new information on AI every single day. It's impossible to stay on top of developments and people's opinions and counter opinions. I think the key thing is try to take even 15 minutes every day to read a little bit and to lean into it rather than resisting it, because in a couple of weeks, a couple of months, you're going to be so much further away from it. So maybe use today as day zero, and then thereafter try to just spend a little bit of time on a regular basis to understand it. That would be my recommendation, or it's Amy's recommendation. Look her up and you'll see she said it.
Just to add a little bit to that is I find some of the most fear and concern or negativity often comes from people who haven't tried it too. So just reinforcing that message is these tools are freely available, at the basic level in consumer. They've created a new baseline for productivity going forward. So try them out, understand them, learn them, because it is a very different way of working that we're going to experience, to just further reinforce Amy's message.
I'll reinforce it again, and I'll give you another quote, actually. So good and bad. So Sharon mentioned NVIDIA, and this really interesting quote came out a few months back from the CEO of NVIDIA, and he was asked the question, will AI replace your job? Will you be taken over by AI? And his response was no, it's okay, your job is safe. AI won't replace you. You'll be replaced by another human being with better AI skills than you. So I think that reference will come out.
Yeah, look, just to add, I suppose, to all the points, for CISC, but we have lots of use cases of AI, and there's lots of platforms there that now have an AI application within Microsoft Word, for instance. We've Copilot, and that's been trialled and tested, and we're rolling that out. We're using other platforms for progress reporting on site, where we're using 360 progress reporting, and then AI to update our programs out on site. And as I mentioned, with the use case that we have in City West, there's AI to enable smart buildings. So there's lots of use cases, and what I probably would say is to understand the use case and understand the purpose of the need of the business, and then try and implement it. Because it's early days for all of these applications, and some of them aren't too advanced. So it's really to pick the use case and see if AI will actually be the correct solution to try and put into your business. So.
Yeah, just echo what everyone said already. And I would treat AI the same way we treat any other innovation in construction. We don't just switch it on overnight and roll it out across the whole business. Do it in a controlled way that you're comfortable for your business or whatever application you're using it for. Test how well it works, how successful it is. Check that you're working with the right supply chain, and then think about scaling it up. So you don't need to go to mass scale overnight.
I was going to add to it, Claire, just on the use case. So we built a use case portfolio, but then what we've done is to add to say, well, what data do you need to support it? what is the algorithm that you're going to use for decision making to make decision making transparent within there? And is there any legal risk for it as well? So just, but I completely agree, get started, doesn't it? It's getting the flywheel started within there. So thank you for the first question. Can we, apologies now.
It's Trina here from Varming, and very, very good presentations. Thank you very much. What I have is a query about the standards from, you mentioned the Alan Turing Institute. I'm just wondering which ones do you think would apply for Irish SMEs, particularly when they're starting out on this journey, and we're an engineering consultancy. So, what would you recommend in terms of creating a simple policy document, which I'm actually in the middle of creating? So, I'm just wondering, could you give advice? Because I think it'll apply to a lot of people in the room.
You'd have to go and have a look at the standards and see which ones are relevant to the type of work that you're doing, the applications that you're doing. It's got over 300 standards there related to machine learning, the type of AI applications that you're doing. So I'd be interested to understand the specific applications of what you're using AI for before being able to list off the standards to help you.
Okay, fair enough.
Maybe use an AI tool to help you put in what application is and what standards are available to do that, because they'll probably be able to trawl through the 300 quicker than you will. So use AI to your advantage there.
Okay.
I don't know if you've got.
I was going to say, when we done the CIB report, we used it, just to try and see, because a lot of members there are SMEs, and the two that came up consistently were, you mentioned what the foundational ones. There was the data quality one. We said, because the data quality one doesn't even matter if you're doing AI, any digital twin BIM needs to be built on it. And the second one was the data security one. We also looked at, and this went out with it, the Institute of Asset Management had a really good value framework that they used as well, which was free. So they were the three things, if you like, so the data quality, data security, and creating a value framework were the three sort of overarching ones we used for the CIB one for SME members. Any other questions at all? I think I've got one.
I've one here for you, yeah. Ross Griffin from Cosmos. I'm a quantity surveyor, so I'll be out of a job in a few years, so hopefully I get my last question in here. But when it comes to our industry within the construction industry, our data quality is terrible. Our digitization is terrible. So the application of AI to a lot of our processes isn't feasible at the moment. And I seen one of the slides from BAM there in terms of tendering. The quality of our bill of quantities in order to be able to use AI to assess tender prices coming back is key to that. So my question to you then is, what standards do we need to apply to tendering, planning, construction, the execution process, the automatic reporting, et cetera, in order to make this happen? I'd like to hear from maybe the two contractors there in terms of what you guys are doing.
So for us, we see at the moment good information management is seen as a competitive differentiator. But I think going forward, those that aren't taking information management seriously and following the ISO standards, they'll actually start to fall away because they won't be able to keep up with the contractors or the other organisations that are taking good information management seriously. And we've had an issue, like we're trying to work with AI companies now to understand non-conformance reports and quality issues that are happening on site to try and prevent these issues from happening again in the future. And like you said, the quality of information just isn't good enough to build sensible solutions off them at the moment. But what we're saying is now we're going to start from now and work with the AI companies to understand how the data should be organised so that in the future, when we develop these tools, we'll be able to make meaningful solutions going forward. But I think following the ISO standards, good information management practice, and showing people what the benefits of the tool are will really help drive that change.
Yeah, and look, just I suppose from CISC, we've invested in, I suppose, our data engineering team, and really what we're doing is developing out data sets that we can get good information and really look, I suppose, from information management, your ISO 19650, but working with a lot of private clients have their own specific information management requirements. So what we're trying to do is to scale that up and to get good data sets across, I suppose, multiple industries and multiple sectors to just really have valuable data. And what we're doing, we're looking at each project in particular and then scaling it up to business units, and then seeing if we can scale that out. And really, I suppose it's working with the IT team is developing out the good data set that we'll have, that we can scale it up to get the valuable information.
But a lot of the data is not produced by people that understand what the good quality data is. So how do you then deal with the people on the ground within your construction projects, within your design teams, etc., who are preparing the data but don't understand what they're actually doing in terms of data?
I suppose it's upskilling and awareness. What we have is platforms that you would populate pre-populated fields so that they can't move outside those fields. So when you're uploading drawings that have a naming convention, that there is fields that they have to populate so the drawings are uploaded consistently, and if it isn't, then it'll go through an approval process and it'll be rejected. Similar then to our commercial information, to our planning information, that we put in those steps that when they're uploading the documentation or when they're sharing information, that it's done in a consistent manner. And as I said, if you, I suppose, from a public sector, you have your ISO standards, but from private sector, they do have their own specific standards that you have to follow, their own name conventions and WBS codes to get that consistency. And the measures that we put in place, that's from the digital project delivery side, that's where our information management team come in place, and they create those gateways and approval processes to kind of manage that data. But then from our data team, they're actually doing the data discovery and ensuring that we have good data sets to get valuable information at the outset. So.
And just a quick one, we're working with our recruitment teams and the heads of departments to make sure that we're updating the roles and responsibilities for every role across BAM. So it's no longer acceptable that digital just relies on the digital managers of the project. Digital has got to become a responsibility of everyone on the construction project. So when we're recruiting, we're making sure that the engineers, the QSs, the planners all have a good digital literacy when they come into our organisations and understand the importance of what they're doing.
Yes, we've got time for just one final quick question. I think we've got a question at the back. I think it would be fair to say we can continue any further questions over the coffee break as well.
There was just one thing I wanted to add, having come across from the tech industry, because the question was around data and data quality, and I do think this is a maturity that the industry needs to reach. The median age in this room is higher. It's not probably that far away from my age. A lot of you may remember the time when you could only open Word documents in the Word application, and if you had a Lotus, there was a Lotus suite back in the days. My friends from IBM will remember those. You could only open Lotus 1, 2, 3, and you couldn't open it in Excel, or if you did, it went terribly wrong. Now it's an absolute given. You can open a Word document in the Google app, their Lotus, or whatever it's called these days, Apologies app, anything, Apple apps, everything's interoperable now at a data level. And the one thing I've learned since coming into this industry over the last 9 months is an awful lot of the data formats have been designed tied to the applications. That separation is essential to get data to be more workable, more interoperable across the building stages as well. So I think that's a level of maturity we need to see in the industry.
So thank you.
Can I just say?
Yeah, of course.
So just to tie back to the previous question about standards or how you do this, we've been talking about data with this group for how long? This is not a new question related to AI. We were talking about it when BAME came along, right? And you need data to actually build your models. The reality is that it's not being adopted within your companies and your practices. So that's a very human issue that people need to get behind. You need to understand the data that you're missing, that's not being added, that's key. But you also, maybe to your point with all the standards, you also need to have something around the expectations, the culture of the organisation, maybe changing roles and responsibilities, etc. But humans are the ones who are adding data or not adding data, and you can only automate it. It can only be interoperable when it exists. So really, we know that there's a lot can be done with the digitisation of this sector. It hasn't moved as fast as others. So there is something there of, at a human level within your company, to the previous point about, I'm putting astronauts, I'm sending astronauts to space. There has to be a purpose. Why are people putting that data in? How is it driving the business? How is their contribution of this data field helping you as an organisation? And I think that maybe is something that people have to look at like tying back the human level to the purpose, and that's the one thing that we just hadn't talked about.
So final question, I think we've got one in the back.
Yes, this is Muhammad from Evolution, and I have thank you for all these presentations. I just have a question for Kelly about digital twins. Previously, or several years ago, we using real-time monitoring for collecting data for buildings. Right now, with building information models and simulation and all of this digital transformation we have, we could collect this information and make a prediction, which means digital twins. And make a prediction, make a decision from collecting information or data of real time for smart building or whatever. We use some rule-based to create a decision. So this is the point here. We don't have much more data, just collecting, for example, like what you say in your kids study, have a population in room, so the temperature go higher. So with this rule base, you can switch off air conditioner or turn it off. How can you utilize AI here in this area, in this scenario? Because you don't have much more data for training models or AI. In the same time, you just have rule-based for your decisions here or predictions.
Yeah, so look, I suppose with City West in particular, what we wanted to do was create the digital twin, and that was our initial goal. With AI embedded into that digital twin, we're on that journey there to put rule-based decisions in, and working with Sensory is that we can optimize the building. So what it will do is that, as you said, it'll be AI automation, where if more people come into a room, then it will then, I suppose, influence the building management system. And then over time, then if people make bookings of that room, you will have the cooling set for the room before people come to the room. And then if no one turned up to that room, then the building management system would turn off. So it's that you don't have to have a building manager on site going around and turning up or down the air conditioning unit for the comfort levels of the room. But what you can do is to have your facilities management team, in our case it'd be Sensory FM, can optimise it using AI to get the best performance out of the building based on the occupancy and the utilisation of the building. So that's one use case of what we're trying to do in City West. But to do that, we set the foundation of our BIM model at the start, our geospatial model, and now we have then our sensors throughout the building, giving it our live real-time information of the building optimization. So hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it's all about rule-based. You just set a rule. Okay, if the sensor is the temperature come to 25, switched off. So just rule-based, not AI here. This is my question here. So that's fine.
We're just out of time. So what we'll do is maybe continue the discussion over a cup of a tea or a beverage of your choice sort of thing, or something there. So great stuff. Listen, first off, I'm sure you'll thank me in joining all our fantastic presenters from this morning.